Well, it's martini time, and I hope you had a nice Mother's Day weekend. I certainly did. Today I've been writing and mulling over, and this is what I do. I get an idea, maybe a topic on Facebook in the morning, and I meditate on it during the day. Maybe write on it and get into some comments on it. And today, and then my studies correspond to it, and it gives my mundane life something to work with. So today I've been looking into why we need to stabilize consciousness or the mind, and the many ways we do it. And we know that and I talked about this morning in this morning's talk too, but a perfect example of when we lose orientation or stability is when you're driving along and you daydream a little bit and your car's in automatic pilot, and then suddenly you jerk back and you have no idea where you are. Did I pass my turn, or is it up ahead? I experienced this. Or you come out of a movie and you're so into the movie that when you come out in the street you say, you have no idea for a moment you have no idea where you are. Or you go to the kitchen and you suddenly realize, I have no idea what I came in here for. There's a moment of disorientation. Or you're in a crowd, you go to a party, and you look for something to fix yourself on. Oh, I know them. Or you're in a dream, and everything is strange, and there's one thing familiar that fixes you. So these experiences happen all the time, but basically what we're looking at is a momentary or prolonged, and that's why we fear Alzheimer's, is because that's a permanent state of disorientation, you see. So, and also blind man's bluff, or all that, where you take somebody and blindfold them and turn them around, or there's a lot of games you can do that stimulates or creates this situation, because if it's a game, it's fun. But if it's not a game, it's not fun, you see. Or, lost in the forest, or you can't, or suddenly you think your compass, you're following your compass, and you realize that your compass has been influenced by a piece of metal in your pocket, and suddenly you realize that the compass was going in the wrong direction, you see. So there's a loss of trust in what was our fixed point, the thing that we had fixed ourselves on. When a family member dies, when the mother or the father is the fixed point of the family, and or the wife or the husband is the fixed point, and when that partner, that fixed point dies, we're disorientated, and we have to completely reinvent ourselves. So this happens quite often, you see. Or we go blind, and then we have to learn how to reorientate ourselves on sound and feeling. Or you go to another country, and there's nothing familiar. The disorientating, you see. So this disorientation is, you could say, is a loss of identity, because our identity is based on something fixed that we know, a memory, a thought. In other words, the mind, and we don't realize this, but the mind needs to be stabilized, or else it just goes wow, 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 wow. You see, disorientated. That's why we find earthquakes so terrifying, is because everything that we depended on shakes now. And of course, Buddhism is basically fundamentally shaking everything up. Zen shakes everything up, because the basic teaching of Buddha is that everything's impermanent, that you can't hang on to anything, not even yourself. Everything is impermanent. Everything's a verb. No nouns. So This meditation today and looking at this moved into identity politics. And so why is our politics so screwed up today? They call it identity politics. Well, politics has become religion. So that your political party, just like your soccer team or your baseball team or your football team, stabilizes you. Now, I'm a Steelers fan, by being a fan, that stabilizes you. No matter what. I'll be a Cubs fan forever, you see. Or that, I don't care if they win or lose, identifying with that team stabilizes my identity. Or we stabilize our identity on our job or our role in life. I'm a wife, I'm a husband, I'm a father, And then what do you do when the kids grow up? Or what do you do when your husband leaves or your wife leaves, you see? The orientation, my fixed star, my compass has gone, you see. So all of these situations in life are basically about having the rug of our fixed identity on something external, a fixed point that we believe will never change. When it changes, we are like Alzheimer's. We're just all over the place, you see. We have to reestablish ourselves. We have to find another fixed point. Even a goal. What's your purpose in life? I remember, kids coming out of high school. Well, what's your purpose? What are you going to do? That's basically a very tough question because people fix their lives by their goal. You got to have a goal. You got to have a future. You got to have a purpose. What is it? So, I'm going to be. Mine was, I was going to be a doctor. So that stabilized my mind, and it stabilized the question. Only when I got to UVA and discovered that I really didn't want to be a doctor, that, I just became a drunk. So then, there again, you can get stabilized on a bottle. You can get stabilized on a cigarette addiction. Anything that's fixed can stabilize your consciousness to avoid the terror of having no fixed no orientation. So we even orientate ourselves on our suffering. I'm a victim, you see. That kind of thing. You can get orientated on that. So anything that we fix so that it will not change no matter what happens, I can depend upon that, you see. That cigarette desire, no matter, I remember when I smoked, I remember feeling, the house could burn down and everybody would be, but as long as I had a pack of cigarettes, I'd be okay. I think a smoker will identify with that. The terror was having no cigarettes and not being able to get one, you see. So anyway, this whole thing has been meditating and rummage around today. And identity politics was curious because that seems to be a big problem now, because identity politics means that you don't care if you're identifying with a party, or in Trump's case, identifying with a leader of your party, that fixes you. And you don't really, in my conversations on Facebook over the years, when they get political, particularly during the Obama years, people created a political identity by not being the other. So who are you? Well, I'm not Obama. Well, or I'm not Trump. You see, so we can stabilize ourselves by not being the other guy. It doesn't mean I know who I am. I don't know what I'm for, but I know I'm not that guy. So that's stable. So our enemy stabilizes us. If you have a good enemy, you get very stable. I think that's why Bush went to Iraq. We were disorientated. We had lost our center, the Twin Towers. It'd come down. Who were we? America was vulnerable. We were not number one. Some bearded guys with box cutters were number one, you see. So that took us down. We were disorientated. So what did Bush do? He He fixed us. Now, I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying that it seems to me, with the wide angle, he went to Iraq because there was a decent enemy that would stabilize us and bring us together again, even though he wasn't the real enemy, and we're still paying for that. Instead of just going for the murderers sitting up in a cave, they weren't really worthy enemies because you couldn't take tanks up there. You see? So we needed a tank war. Yeah, we needed to have a good enemy. So there was Saddam. He had an army. So anyway, but that shows you just how the enemy can stabilize us. You know, World War II, Hitler in Japan made us into the greatest power on earth. Before Hitler in Japan, we didn't want to get involved in the rest of the world. Isolationists, you see. So anyway, a good enemy can fix you. Revenge can fix you. There's so many things that we do to fix our consciousness, to avoid the terror of not being orientated, of not having a center. If you're in a debate, and the whole debate is about you're keeping your center. Trump won because he was able to keep his center in a debate. Not because of what he was going to do or anything else, it was just because he demonstrated the power to hold the center when he was being attacked by these other debaters. That's all he did, basically. It was just a performance where he was able to hold, he demonstrated that he could hold the center. So he became a fixer, not fixing the economy. He fixed the people who voted for him to feeling like that they were stabilized, that the center would hold, that the America would be restored if you identified with Trump. So people identify with Trump. But now once you make that connection, once you surrender your center to a leader or to someone else, they can do no wrong. Because for them to do wrong would be for you to disconnect your identity. Then you would be back in the disorientation again, which is the very reason you picked them. So you can really go to hell in a handbasket this way, because no matter what they do, you're going to go with them because you don't want to go back to being disorientated and without center and security and feeling safe, you see, and sure and righteous, you see. So people say, well, why do people still follow Trump? Well, and when he can do all this, you know, oh, this time people will jump off his ship now. No. Why jump off his ship? What are you going to jump into? The terror of not having your own center. You gave it up. You see, so if you give it up, if you leave, it's just like a cult. People stay with cults because they give their center to the cult leader. And so they can take them to Jonesboro, Jonesville, or whatever that was, and feed them Kool-Aid. That's okay. That's better than being without my center. You see. So this is very, very, you know, and then, you know, we get into marriages and relationships because the other person can become our center. They stabilize me. I need you. You stabilize me, you see. So if they go or break the vow, then you're all wow, 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 you see, destabilized. So the whole spiritual practice, whatever tradition you're in, is to find your center that does not depend upon conditions, so that you possess your center and you don't give it away. And no matter what the world's doing, you're still okay. You still have your center because you didn't give it to anything. You didn't lash on to anything. You see? And so this practice basically is a practice of disconnecting you from the various false centers that we have connected to. Christianity calls them false idols. You see? So a false idol is something we connect to that we have created as emissary of the absolute. the absolute won't change, no matter what conditions do, you see. So the external centers, or false idols, that we bow to or identify with are absolute. This is right. And religions are basically religions of absolutes. That's what a religion is. It's not a religion of relativity. Science is a religion of relativity. Church is a religion of absolutes. So the absolutes of religion don't change with time. That's why the Catholic Church doesn't change. Because they know if they start giving in to some of their principles, that just lets the dam loose, you see. And the whole thing will get washed away. Yes, so this is a good thing to meditate on. What are your centers? What are your false idols? What are your, even a belief or an opinion? I go on Facebook and people cling to their opinion. You know, everybody's got an opinion. What is an opinion? But it fixes my consciousness on that opinion. Well, that's my opinion. Well, why do I have that opinion? Because I get orientated on it. I can fix myself on it. And I feel gives me meaning, gives me stability. I can fight with you. I can defend it. To the death, I'll defend my opinion. And the next stage of the opinion is belief, you see. So belief is a big opinion, and more absolute, you see. So, you know, there's everywhere people, and basically it's because consciousness has to have some orientation, or else reality just becomes a snowstorm of data. You go in a snowstorm, and if you're called a whiteout, whiteout happens when you can't see what is up, and you can't see up or down. The definitions of reality, so you don't know, you could be upside down, you don't know. You see, so that whiteout is a terrifying feeling of disorientation. If you're driving, it's a bad experience when suddenly you're oriented on the road and suddenly you enter into a patch where you lose orientation and you don't know if you're going left or right. Whoa. For pilots, I was told that the most difficult training was to depend on the instruments, because when you lose orientation in the fog or in a cloud or something, you have to depend on trust the instruments. And you might say, oh, damn those instruments, I feel like I'm going, I feel like I'm level, you know, I feel like I'm straight, you know, and the instruments say I'm upside down. Screw those instruments. You see, I trust my own thing, you know, and so boom. See, but anyway, so this it's a very deep subject, I find, you know, and very personal. I know in my own practice, my own life, you know, I'm constantly discovering false centers or fixed points, or something that I'm fixed on that gives me stability, that I depend upon, and that gives me meaning, you see. So but they're all based on anything external is impermanent. And the trick is, particularly in Zen, is that there is nothing inside that's permanent. That's one of the, Buddhism is basically a practice, a teaching of pulling the rug out from under you. So there's nothing fixed outside and there's nothing fixed inside. No self, no soul, nothing outside is fixed. Nothing is permanent. What do? Where is your center now? Well, that's a discovery. So that is a discovery of the center that has no fixed point. And it's when you discover the center that has no fixed idol or fixed point, you see, it's a dance. You're free. You're no longer tethered to anything. The mind is creative. The mind is free from being fixed on form. The mind is free from being fixed on things. You become a verb instead of being a noun, a person, place, or thing. You're still a person, place, or thing. I mean, you don't give that up, but it's not your dominant orientation. Your dominant orientation is that you're free. And then you can have a name and do stuff and have a purpose and all that, you see. But it reorientates you. It reorientates you to life as a creative dance instead of something that's fixed and static. For whenever life becomes fixed and static, you can be sure that you're depending upon something fixed and static. And that creates fear, because whatever's fixed and static can die or leave or disappoint you. So it's a setup, you see. Anytime you get fixed, you can be sure there's going to be fear. Fear of change, fear of death. And when there's fear, there's no freedom. So we'll end with that. So thank you for dropping in, and I'll see you in the morning.